Remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason and plot. I see of no reason why the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. Hello, various people across the grand spectrums of time in the multiverse. I am the abomination, somewhat occasionally known as Alexander Gordon Johans. And November the 5th is a date that has come to mean a lot more to me since I started getting interested in politics, because pretty much this is our storming of the Bastille. This is our Tea Party. This is our slave uprising. This is the one moment where, in basically the entirety of British history, where we can point to and say this was an attempt at revolution in Britain. Admittedly, it was an attempt at revolution by a bunch of bastards, but, well, look at history. But this is the closest Britain has. And I've tried to record variations on this video before. Because basically things are bleak right now in politics in the Western world. Basically, the entirety of the world has taken a swing to the far right. And those among us on the left, or indeed on the centre, or indeed even on just the right, but not the far right, are kind of freaking the fuck out. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump supporters are literally coming out and saying, no, it's totally fine that he sexually assaults women, get over it. Like, the fact that that is a thing that is happening. Right, that pretty much puts a lie to any possible spin. Oh, well, Donald Trump's alright, he probably won't do much harm, because his supporters are literally like, he sexually assaults people, I don't care. like that's the guy bragged about it. He bragged about how he gets away with sexual assault in a political campaign, and it has not destroyed his political campaign. That is terrifying, right? I mean, I started watching Armando Iannucci's in the thick of it last night, and honestly, it's fantastic. And Peter Capaldi's Malcolm Tucker is like a shark in human form, but oh my god, it's so very quaint compared to the bullshit that has happened in the American presidential election. I mean, Donald Trump is a guy who had a tower with his name on it in the center of fucking New York. He is a guy whose name has been synonymous because of marketing with quality and success. And this is a guy who has said that who has said that Mexicans are rapists. Who has said that that fat women, that women are fat and they should, and insulted them. This is a guy who has bragged about sexual assault, who has joked about assassinating his political rival. And Clinton? What do the media fixate on Clinton having done? Well, she might have possibly used her email thingy on the wrong thingy. It reminds me of how in Britain, right, we've got Theresa May, who is currently who is currently dishing out policies that fucking UKIP are saying, hey, hold on, that's too far. And the media in Britain is like, ooh, Jeremy Corbyn, he's making a bonfire on his allotment that might not be against the local guidelines of his allotment agency. I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. And the thing is that, like, there genuinely is a lot to criticize about Hillary Clinton, right? She was involved in the deregulation of the financial industry. She was involved in making politics more corrupted. This is a woman who has played a part in bombing the Middle East, who has ran campaigns against Barack Obama where she has utilized racist rhetoric. The trouble is, though, that every single bad thing about Hillary Clinton, Trump is worse. You know, I genuinely, like, as someone who supports Bernie Sanders and someone who supports, you know, the British Bernie Sanders, Jeremy Corbyn, I can get quite angry at the sort of the left-wingers who are like, yeah, but Hillary Clinton is only getting hate because she's a woman, when it's like, no, she's bombed people. She's bombed people. You know, she's done genuinely horrible things. She's genuinely why America is kind of a crappy country right now. She's got blood on her hands. But at the same time, that doesn't matter. She's still better than Trump, because Trump may not actually be Hitler, but his supporters sure damn could get a Hitler into power. And that's the terrifying thing, is that Trump has brown shirts right now, right? And he joked before that he could get away with shooting someone. He has now gotten away politically with sexually assaulting people and bragging about it, right? His supporters are totally okay with that. That's astonishing. That is a sign of how fucked up Britain has, how fucked up the world has become. Sorry, that's my Anglo-centricism coming in. Everything is Britain, damn it! But Trump is terrifying. Not because of him himself, but because of his supporters. Because this guy, I think, could genuinely be caught on live television raping and eating a child whilst he shot a fucking puppy, and his ratings would go way the fuck up. He could say, hey, we're gonna bring back slavery and start killing all the Jews. Way! His support would go way the fuck up, right? Like, at this point, he is so fucking absurdly evil. Like genuinely, you could not write a villain as evil as Donald Trump is, because people would say, oh dude, that's totally unrealistic, you're gonna have to fucking tone it down. Because, like, even in fucking Star Wars The Force Awakens, when they've got fucking the Fifth Reich in goddamn space fucking Sieg Heiling to grand wizard Nazis, even there, they've got the fucking stormtroopers saying, hey, I needed a bit fucking touchy at the moment, let's stand the fuck back. Right? Even in fucking Force Awakens, the fucking Kaiser's supporters have got more fucking sense than Trump supporters. And these are the people who are stalking me. These are the people who are harassing my family, who are trying and failing to get to me. This is absurd. This is insane. I could not write a story that was like this because it would seem too unrealistic. I've written stories where people have been eaten alive and found it as pleasurable as a fucking sexual orgasm. But no, real life has crossed the fucking threshold for me. Real life is too absurd. And so this is why I feel like it is important to remember that yes, even in Britain, there was an attempt at revolution, and listening to Blueprint for Armageddon, I listened to it mainly because I think Sally Sparrow says it in the Doctor Who episode Blink that like sad is happy for snobby people or something like sad is happy for smart people, and so yeah, the First World War, you know, lions led by donkeys, you know, the epitome of the global clusterfuck. That's one hell of a sad thing to listen to. But it also weirdly sort of brought about hope in me. Because first off, like, the events of the First World War are like Mordor. They are like the worst of Middle-earth, of the scouring of the Shire. They are horrible, horrible events. You know, people, trenches where, you know, when I think of trenches, or at least when I thought of trenches, I thought of, like, you know, almost underground stations, you know, like well-appointed things, and yes, we've got proper latrines here, and we've got plumbing, and yes, this is our lawn, and we've got proper bunk beds, and no, what they were fucking ditches dug out in the middle of essentially a blasted wasteland, because it's constantly getting shelled, where you're essentially at a certain point digging through the corpses of your comrades, and the essentially like no man's land when you sort of were making your your runs across it, you were going over the top. That basically it was springy from all the corpses underfoot. This was a horrific thing that humanity survived. And for someone like me who actually gives a shit about the feelings of other people, that's weirdly uplifting. Like, this was hell on earth, and we survived. You know, this was, I mean, you know, there are worse things that humanity has created, you know, atomic bombs. But in a way, the atomic bomb is, it's like, with the Battle of Cannae, okay, the Battle of Cannae, incidentally, is this famous battle that happened, where essentially you had the Carthaginians led by Hannibal, the guy who led elephants across the mountains to sort of get the drop on the Romans, that he essentially performed a pincer movement where he essentially had weaker troops in the center, and then he had his strong troops on the sides, so that the Romans came at them, and then the weaker troops fell back and fell back and fell back, and then they just encircled the Romans. And the horror was, I mean, the Battle of Cannae, actually, it's weirdly sort of illustrated in Game of Thrones, The Battle of the Bastards, where essentially Jon Snow is put in the position of the Romans of having been essentially surrounded by Ramsay Snow's forces. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing where you're beside you. I mean, you know, I mean, Romans had more proper armed forces, but actually, no. This was before the days of the armed forces. The Romans, the Greeks, you know, all these people, they weren't really sort of military forces in the way that we know today. What there were essentially, you know, reservist forces where you'd be like, yeah, okay, well, we've got to go to war now because someone's attacking us or whatever. So you got to pick up your kit and you got to be ready to defend, you know, your fucking country or whatever. And you'd go out with your friends and your colleagues, and you'd stand on the battlefield, and war was a very personal, hands-on thing. It was, and the horror of the Battle of Cannae is the fact that you're essentially being crushed. It's a horrible, grueling thing where there's no way out. And you're just waiting to die, and you're seeing your friends and your family just get murdered brutally. And even if you do kill yourself, it's a horrible, hands-on, brutal act. And you sort of contrast that to like the atomic bomb, which is just like drop, and it's like a whole city's gone. The effect of the atomic bomb is horrible, but it's at a distance. Whereas the First World War, what was so truly horrible about it was you were beginning to get the power of gunpowder, the power of ranged artillery, but you still had the Battle of Cannae-esque, hands-on, front lines, blood, guts, and horror. And it's this horrible joining of the up-close and personal hell of Cannae with the destructive power that you get in later generations in the Second World War. And it's hell on earth. And we survived it. Humanity survived. Britain survived. America survived. And alright, it left scars that it wouldn't be properly dealt with until the Second World War. And that we're still feeling the aftershocks of all these years later. I mean, but at the same time, this was a thing that we survived. That humanity survived. And so that's weirdly uplifting, like, you know, looking at the apocalypses of the past and saying, we survived that. We can survive the shit that's going to come at us now. And we are going to face a lot of shit that's going to come. You know, a new Cold War because Russia's apparently got super nukes and they're getting a bit chippy, and NATO's getting a bit chippy as a result. So there's a bit of tension, and they're currently either side of a hot war in the Middle East. So, you know, things are kind of bad, you know. Because essentially, Russia's backing Assad, and Britain and America and the West are sort of criticizing Assad. So it's kind of nasty in that respect. And obviously there's climate change, there's technological unemployment, and you know, these are bad things, but they're not as bad as the First World War, or at least they're not going to be for quite some time. And even if they do, we survive that. We'll survive whatever challenges come. And another thing that occurred to me about the First World War is, you know, there's a weird thing that happens when you're taught something at school, in the sense that it becomes ancient history, right? For me, the Second World War has always felt like the ancient past, right? The the Second World War was the Enigma machine. The first computer was built. The Colossus and the First World War. Was cars and planes and Battle of Britain. There were all these things that are close enough to the modern day, but at the same time, because it was taught in school, because it was taught in primary school, Hitler, Germans, bad, woo, Nazis, not good, right? It's always seemed to me such an ancient prehistoric thing, it's almost in my head, Nazis occupy the same sort of timeline. They occupy the same time and space as dinosaurs. Like they were taught at the same time, so they existed at the same time. Weirdly, or at least they feel like that. But listening to the First World War, I'm like, now hang on. Listening to the First World War, listening to Dan Carlin's Blueprint for Armageddon about the First World War, I was like, now hang on. The fall of Tsarist Russia and the foundation of communism happened within 100 years. Right? Now, yeah, that's several generations ago. But at the same time, that's 100 years, right? That's within, certainly, someone from my generation's lifetime. And that's a hell of a thing. That is a hell of a thing to think that happened so recently, right? And obviously, right, with the intervention of Vladimir Lenin and then with Stalin, lots of bad things happened. But lots of bad things are happening now. We formed up to stop the Nazis, and now the Nazis are sweeping around around America and around Britain and around Europe again, right? Like the far right are taking over. Or they're trying to, and they could actually succeed. And we need to stop that. Now, I know that because a lot of my supporters are basically the new Nazis, because they are the alt-right, I know that these people aren't going to be receptive to this message, but that's okay. You're not who this message is intended for. And I know, as you are very keen to point out, you are the only people who give a shit about what I say because, I don't know, you've got a mental problem and you're like, I hate this thing! I will watch it obsessively! Right? But this doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. Obviously, if you are a Nazi, you aren't going to agree with me when I criticize Nazis. I feel like Nazis are bad. Not a very controversial statement. I feel like racists and bigots are bad. I feel like, considering, white people pretty much still run the fucking world. Oh, but Obama! Right, yeah. One guy who was elected for 8 years. Truly, the white people are no longer in charge of the world. So, because Nazis are bad, and they are taking over the world, and it is November the 5th, sort of wrap up, I feel like we should take them on. And we should remember that nobody got their rights because someone in power decided, oh yes, I have now woken up and seen the light and I would now like to give you some rights. No, People have rights because previous generations fought for them. Because previous generations caused a fucking nuisance. Right? Everybody hated the suffragettes, and they were like, it's horrible, they're horrible, they're extremists, they're getting it away, you know. Winston Churchill was like, hey, police, why don't you fucking rape them, because we don't have the space to fucking bloody arrest them. Right, like, the suffragettes, they fought for women's rights, they got women's rights, and they got them by being a fucking nuisance to society. Martin Luther King, you know, he campaigned for the rights of black people, and so did Malcolm X, and people say, hey, why don't you be like Martin Luther King? What are you talking about? Why are you having riots? You know, Martin Luther King wouldn't have been for that, and so then, you know, someone decides to, you know, kneel during the national anthem, and suddenly you're all fucking going mad because, how dare you do a peaceful protest? No! Because what this is about, really, is about the privileged feeling like they are being attacked because this privilege that they have is actually being taken away from them. Now, I know when you have actually got nothing, to have someone say, oh, well, you're fucking privileged, aren't you? That hurts, right? I understand that. I mean, I've got fucking nothing. I mean, I'm a fucking autistic idiot with fucking tits and a tiny dick, right? I am someone who has had a very bad roll of the dice, but I'm still a cis white male, and so I am in this position of privilege, despite also being in a position of not so much privilege. And so I can understand how it can be hard to adjust to the idea that life can be complicated, and so you can have privilege in one area and be discriminated against in another area. But there is a lot of stupid hatred going on right now, and we need to fight the rights of the oppressed. And the oppressed aren't white people. The oppressed are poor people. The oppressed are black people. The oppressed are women. The oppressed are trans folk. The oppressed are gay people, bisexuals. The oppressed are polyamorous. The oppressed are actually atheists in America and certain parts of Europe and the Middle East, right? We need to stand up for the oppressed. We need to stand up and make people take notice of the plights of the people who are oppressed, to get laws changed to fucking benefit them. To make sure that they have basic rights. I mean, for God's sake, trans people can't go to the fucking bathroom. Right? We're literally going right back to the whole fucking segregation issue of fucking black people not being allowed to use bathrooms, except this time it's trans people. And in case you've forgotten, this is me, Mr. Transphobic, saying, hey guys, we should fucking be better to fucking trans people here. This is ridiculous. This is blatant fucking segregation. Oh my god, they want to go to the toilet. How dare they? Meanwhile, you're saying, oh my god, trans people, because we have loos where trans people might be able to go to the loo, perverts might get in and sexually assault people. How? Oh my god, that's such a danger. Meanwhile, Donald Trump openly brags about sexually assaulting people, and then his supporters say, well, of course, he has every right. What are you doing? Stop complaining. The world is fucked up, and it makes no goddamn sense. And we need to remember that people did not get rights by patiently filling out petitions and saying, Mr. Powerful Person, I'd like some rights, please. No, they got rights by being a fucking nuisance to society and saying, hey, cockend, if you don't goddamn give me my fucking rights, we are gonna have more of a fucking nuisance on your hands. So, in conclusion, the world is mad. We need to fix it. And we need to not be afraid to be a nuisance in order to fix the way that it has gone mad. I have been the entity and abomination somewhat associated with the name Alexander Gordon Johans. And you have probably been an alt-right individual who is going to make some sort of bland insult that you think will be very cutting when it isn't. Goodbye! Thank you to all my Patreons at patreon.com for helping to make videos like this possible. If you wish to leave a like or dislike to rate the video for my analytics, that would be much appreciated. Comments are always welcome, though be aware that they will be moderated before being published, so please be civil. If you liked this video, please consider adding it to your favourites, sharing it to your friends, or subscribing. If you wish to help me out, or my channels, please consider whitelisting my videos in your adblock software, subscribing for monthly donations through Patreon, or giving a small one-off donation. Alternatively, I have a Steam wishlist for games I would consider let's playing or streaming, so if you would like to see me broken before the Dark Souls altar, or just happen to have gotten a duplicate of a game in a humble bundle, then you know what to do. I also have an official Facebook fan page, Twitter account, Tumblr, Reddit and blog, so you can stay up to date with all of my videos, blog articles and the things I care about. Links are in the video description. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I think that all that now needs to be said is ban all guns, institute universal basic income now, and ensure government is elected by proportional representation. Oh, and also, fuck the racists and fuck the alt-right. It is a reward for Patreons that who donate $5 or more, that they get thanks for donating $5 or more to my Patreon. And I haven't been doing that because I'm sort of shit at things, and so I am going to be thanking all the people who have donated $5 or more, basically for all time so far, and this is going to be re-recorded every time someone else donates $5 more in future. So anyway, without further ado, here we go. Thank you to Michael Hamilton Fletcher, who donated on September the 13th, 2015. And thank you to Marcus Anthony Infante, who pledged $5 on September the 3rd, 2016, and thank you to Henry Wotton, who pledged $5 on September the 8th, 2016. Thank you to both of you, lovely, to all three of you, lovely lovely people, and I will indeed be remembering to keep actually rewarding my Patreons for, you know, donating money to keep me alive, because that's nice, and because I have seen people complaining that, well, you know, this link to send you care packages from Amazon, all of the things on the wish list are really expensive. Yeah, well, you know, you can't just give me money as well. That would be appreciated. So Patreons, thank you. You are lovely, wonderful. Apologies that you watch my videos, because I'm a sort of grotesque flesh golem of idiocy. Why? But anyway, thank you. Also, thanks to Martin Heavey, Cestrian vlogger, for pledging $5 a month on Patreon.